this is a great lead in because we're going to talk about recovery next. I'm going to leave you with this thought as we leave the science of addiction. And that is from someone named Nora Volkow. And I hope you remember her name because I'm telling you, a lot of the scans that we're seeing are based on her research. She has been instrumental in demonstrating that drug addiction is a disease of the human brain. And her images are some of what we are featuring here have helped us understand so much about substance use disorder. And she says drug addiction is a brain disease that can be treated. And so that is what we're going to move into next. And I'm hoping you guys don't need a break because I only have like 35 more minutes left them. So I hope you can hang in there with me. And here we start with the science of recovery. There is hope. And I think that's the biggest thing I want you to take away when we start this out, because the brain recovers. We saw how much damage can happen in our addiction, but look at this. This is a meth addicted brain. This is on page 12 of your workbooks, section 4. We look at the healthy control. Now, 1 month abstinent, I'm not seeing a whole lot of red brain activity, but look at 14 months abstinent. What do you guys see? And I hope you see what I see. And that is that the healthy brain and that of the meth addicted brain, 14-month abstinent, we're seeing some remarkable healing going on. And it's starting to return to normal state of functioning. And I know that happened in myself. And most of us know that sustained recovery is real. No matter what substance we were addicted to, many of us here today are living proof of that. But now we have some science to back us up. So let's look at this a little more. And to do that, I want to get clear on, we're talking about recovery. So it's helpful to have a common ground of what do we mean by recovery. So let's do that first. I'm going to share with you SAMHSA's definition, Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration, who, by the way, instrumental in funding research and recovery community organizations all across this nation. So get to explore their website if you have a chance. So here's what they say. Recovery is a process of change. No kidding, a process of change through which individuals, I would say, and their families in the community, improve health and wellness. And they live self-directed lives. Nobody's telling them what to do. This is self-directed recovery. And they reach their full potential. And so next to that is a wheel with their SAMHSA's working definition. And some words that leap out at me are person-driven, trauma, it addresses trauma. And somebody brought that up earlier, that it's holistic. And here's one, many pathways. Many pathways. Medication-assisted recovery and treatment are absolutely viable. Faith-based, 12-step. So see, these are some of the words that come to life for me. I would like you to take a moment and reflect. How do you define recovery? What does it mean to you? And maybe you're not in recovery yourself, but when you work with somebody, what does that word mean to you? What are 3 things that help you or someone you know recover? So just kind of brainstorm that for 2 minutes. So as you return to the room, I see someone had to end their career. It was no longer in alignment with their values. Had to end a relationship that was toxic. Anyone else want to add to this? Overhauling self-care, like new diet and exercise. I know I started working out for the first time in my life. What a concept. Anyone else want to put in the chat things that helped you or someone you know recover from substance use disorder? Huge. Connecting with spirituality and religious faith. That was a big one for me as well. Family support. I said that one as well. Understanding them from where they're at. So giving people understanding and I see humility, readiness, and courage. Fellowship. So that support from people that understand and get you. Group support like AA. Alcohol is out to kill you, but first it wants to get you alone. Yeah, so that's why that peer support is so important. Being able to help others, having a support system. Hey, the knowledge of science. Woo. Knowledge that recovery isn't linear, that each person has their own experience, and being able to show empathy in that process. These are fabulous, you guys. You can continue to post in the chat so we can capture your thoughts. But now that we are centered in like recovery and what helps us recover, let's circle back to an earlier comparison that I made of substance use disorder with other chronic diseases. Now, why compare? Because now everyone, and I say everyone who's in the know, agrees that these are all illnesses. Hypertension, diabetes, substance use disorder, asthma, they're all influenced by some combination of genetics, experiences, and the environment. They are all chronic conditions, and in all of them, effective treatments are available, and we are going to explore what's effective for substance use disorder. And I want you to notice, none of these illnesses are moral failings or moral weaknesses. So let's continue this comparison a little bit. And I'm now on page 14 in your workbook. So what are we looking at here? Well, when in recovery, we might have a setback, as do people with other treatable health conditions, by the way. The good news is that people in recovery do very well in treatment. In fact, we do better than people with some other kinds of chronic diseases. This study was published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, and it shows that relapse rates for people who really need to manage their recovery, and by the way, recovery from, let's say, hypertension, asthma, that could include your sugar intake, your diet, maybe smoking when you have asthma and you shouldn't, or taking a medication or not. But as you can see, people in recovery from addiction do better than people with hypertension or asthma, and just about as well as people with diabetes. So to say that we relapse chronically, because sometimes that's what we see in the news, that's what makes the headlines, might not be the truth. Now, as we explore the effective treatments that are available and apply all we know about recovery, what we're going to begin to see is that we should expect recovery and nothing else. So, but healing takes time. So on page 15 of your workbooks, we're looking at yet another brain scan. And I hope what comes to light for you is what I see. So here's a PET scan that shows that in most cases, that reduced brain activity you saw in the earlier part of the presentation is not permanent. Look at what's happening with a cocaine abuser when compared to a normal brain at 10 days abstinent. Not seeing a whole lot of light going on in that brain, but look at 100 days. We're starting to see brain activity starting to recover. And as more time goes on, you see more recovery of the brain. So the key seems to be neuroplasticity. Remember how it hijacked our brain and rewired it as it adapted and changed to the input of substances? Well, just as we saw our brains rewired in addiction, our brains are rewired in recovery. So what this graph is showing you on page 15, what this little graphic is showing you is as we set goals, as we recognize triggers that are going to set us off and begin to make conscious choices, because now we're able to, because we're able to start thinking again. And as we're able to feel pleasure from healthy pursuits, like just being with your child and working out or watching a sunset or skiing, new neural pathways are being built, and that perpetuates recovery behavior because choice is back. So the key seems to be sustained recovery, meaning time is needed. How long? How long does recovery take? Well, This graph shows that the longer we stay in recovery, the more we stay in recovery. So let me explain. And I'm going to put it out there that I think recovery is for life. And I know for me, it's for life. But let me show you a study that was done by Dennis Foss and Scott with thousands of people in recovery over 8 years. What this graph is showing you is in early recovery, 1 to 12 months, a third of the people with less than a year of abstinence were, if they sustained abstinence, they were able to stay in recovery for yet another year. Now, people in middle recovery, 1 to 3 years, 2/3 will make it yet another year if they're able to stay abstinent and stay in recovery. After 4 years, 86% will make it to yet another year. So you've got to be thinking, how can we sustain recovery? And we're going to spend some time thinking about that. But we have to be vigilant because this same study did show that chronic management is needed. Chronic, meaning over the long term of our recovery, because unfortunately, even after 7 years abstinence, 14% did have a setback each year. It doesn't mean they went out and stayed out. It just means they had a setback and they had to use their tools to get back on board. So what I want to share with you next is more from this study. Again, it's the same study. And what can we expect to see from sustained recovery? Why do we want to invest our time and money and effort and energy into helping people find sustained recovery? Well, in just 1 to 12 months, we start to see less homelessness. Is that a problem here in California or in Orange County or wherever you are? Yeah. So less homelessness, less violence, less victimization. At 1 to 3 years, we see the virtual elimination of illegal activity and illegal income. We see better housing. We see employment. And then at 4 to 7 years, you're looking at a fully integrated citizen in your community. And the main point is that, yes, recovery takes time, but those gifts of recovery, well, they have ripple effects that impact individuals, our children, our families, our community. I would even venture to say the world. The body and the brain need recovery support for significantly longer periods than that 30-day, 90-day, 1 year treatment that a program can provide. So what I'd like to do is share what else is needed. And I want to introduce this idea with a quick video. It's like 3 minutes, called the Rat Park Videos. So bear with me while I share this with you.
What causes drug addiction? We think the answer is obvious. Drugs have strong chemicals that make our bodies dependent on them. But journalist Johan Hari discovered that there is more to it. The messages in this video are based on his book, Chasing the Screen, the first and last days of the war on drugs. In the 70s, a research experiment found that when a rat is put in an empty cage, all alone with 2 water bottles, one normal and one drugged, it gets addicted to the drugged water and eventually dies of malnutrition. The experiment was seen as proof that drugs are uncontrollable, and it laid the foundation for 40 years of drug policy with strict laws, rehab centers that focused on withdrawal, and a massive war on drugs, making it clear that drugs are bad. What most people don't know is that in the same decade, another scientist, Professor Bruce Alexander, thought it was obvious.
Tracy, I muted you. Can you please unmute again? When I muted you, it muted the video.
Oh, no.
I'm so sorry, everybody.
Okay, one moment.
Go back just a tiny bit.
Okay.
Over water. So he put them in a rat park, a lush cage with friends and everything a rat could want, while still having free access to drugs. Surprisingly, his rats chose not to use the drugs. The researcher even took the study one step further and had the rats use drugs for 57 days in the lonely cage until they became heavily addicted, and then placed them in the rat park. Astonishingly, the rats gradually reduced their drug use until they stopped using them altogether and lived the rest of their lives drug-free. Experiments like these happen to humans all the time. One example is in hospitals, where heavily injured patients are given a medical form of heroin. This heroin is much stronger than the heroin used by street addicts. Despite months of use, these medical users just stop when they go home to a life where they are surrounded by a loving family. The same drug, used for the same length of time, turns street users who were alone and unhappy into desperate addicts. The Rat Park experiments didn't show that chemical addictions don't exist, but it showed that they are not the only thing that matters in drug abuse. Maybe a person's access to a functioning social life and a lush cage are even more important than continuing the war on drugs mission of making drugs unavailable and penalizing the users. Thank you for watching this minute video series on public health. For easy understanding, we have included some simplifications, so please make sure to check out chasingthescream.com for the full story and stuartmcmillan.com for an awesome comic strip about the experiments. Please leave your thoughts about the Rat Park.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope it gives you something to think about. I would like to take, and we don't have a lot of time left, so I just want to put you in a group for a moment. How did this experiment impact your thinking about recovery from substance use disorder? And we'll try to post some things in the chat when we get back. So select a reporter. Can we put them in groups? Okay.